Welcome to IT80. This is a project 7.6. It's to manufacture a T-nut using the skills that you've learned for layout, milling, drilling, and tapping. As always, be sure you read all the instructions before you start the project and follow all of the safety guidance. Some of the guidance is highlighted here, but we'll follow all of our shop safety practices. Remember to dress appropriately, wear the appropriate PPE, always use all of your tools and power equipment in accordance with the way you've been taught and the owner's manual, and then also be sure that you have no long hair, jewelry, or loose clothing around any rotating parts. So let's get started. If you haven't gotten this printout from your instructor, be sure you download it and print it. Again, the title is 7.6 T-nut. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut your stock to length. So I ask you to cut a piece that's about 1 1/16 inches long. This is what it looks like. The stock we're using is 1.125 deep, 0.75 tall, and your piece that you'll cut is 1.0625. As always, deburr all of the cut edges so that you can seat it squarely in the vise and check the squareness of your cut. The next thing you're going to need to do is to select a tool. I give you the option of using either a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch end mill. It doesn't really matter which one that you use, but be sure and compute a RPM for the appropriate tool based upon a cutting speed of 80 feet per minute. You'll want to load this tool diameter into the digital readout. As you remember, the way to set the tool diameter in the DRO is to hit the tool button and then enter the decimal value for the diameter, followed by enter. Let's watch how you do that. So now with your deburred stock, you're going to go ahead and mount it into the vise. I give you two depictions of what the vise should look like. Use some parallels. You want about 1/4 inch sticking out the right-hand side of the vise. And what we're going to do is we're going to square up this part. Now throughout the part, you're going to see this diagram, and it's color-coded based upon the cuts. So our original stock, when we put it into the vise, looks something like this. And you'll notice the red is over here is the cut side, the raw cut side, and the red on the other side is the raw cut side where you sawed it. So we're going to mount that thing into the vise so that I've got about 1/4 inch sticking out on the right-hand side, and we're going to do a machine pass. It's important that we come in here with our tool and first touch off and find this edge. Once we find that edge, we'll dial in a little bit of a cut. So let's watch a video on how we do that. So I've got a tool mounted in the collet. You can use either a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch end mill. Be sure to compute the RPM based upon 80 surface feet per minute cutting speed. I've come in and just barely touched the edge. You'll hear and feel it start to cut. Once I do that, I want to zero my DRO in X and back my tool away. I'm then going to dial in somewhere around a 10/1000ths deep cut. And I'm going to make that cut all the way across the surface. The objective of this cut is to do nothing more than to square up the edge and to clean up the saw, both the marks and to make it true. You'll notice we're using a conventional cut. It's very light. And I've got a full, clean finish from top to bottom. So I've squared up the end. So once you finish that first squaring cut on the end, I'd like you to flip the part end for end. Of course, you'll have to deburr the cut end that you just machined before you put it back into the vise. Once you've put it back in the vise, your previously machined end is sticking to the left. The unmachined end is sticking out to the right. Your tool is in front of the part to move from the front to the back. Go ahead and start up your machine. Touch the edge and make a squaring cut. Be sure to zero your DRO. Once you've made that squaring cut, the two ends should be reasonably square with each other. You'll want to measure the overall length of the remaining stock. You're going to continue to make cuts based upon how much over 1 inch your stock remains. Because you zeroed the DRO on the second squaring cut, you now can just use that digital readout calculation to machine it down to exactly 1 inch. Once you've achieved your 1 inch length per the plan, go ahead and remove your part, deburr it, and repeat those steps for your second part. This is the end of process 1.